Hello friends, welcome to LUKMAAN IAS. Today we are going to have the Hindu analysis of 28th May 2021. Before going into today's articles, let us try to address some of the questions that were asked by some of the students the day before yesterday on 26th May. Okay, so let me read the questions first and then we will address these questions one by one. What exactly is the current vaccination policy? Are the states only purchasing or both the center and state are purchasing? After purchasing, what is the manner in which the vaccine is being distributed to states by the center? Now this question relates to vaccination policy of the central government. So yes, the genuine doubt the student has asked, this is a good approach. Yes, central government and states. Many students are confused at present whether center is buying these vaccines and directly giving to the people or it is buying vaccines and giving to the states. What is happening exactly? Let us try to understand. Okay, at present or before, we can say that the background of the vaccination when it started from January 2021, from January to April, these 4 months central government directly procured the vaccines and administered the vaccines with the help of states free of cost. Okay, 100% vaccines were procured by central government and they were distributed among the states according to the demand, according to the population status. Okay, so those who were above 60 earlier, then with comorbidities, then the age limit was reduced to 45. This was up to April. Okay, but later on the changes were made to the vaccination policy, and at present there is concept called as 50%, the ratio between center and state. Students are confused about this very much. 50% at present is to be bought by the central government and 50% remaining to be brought by state plus private hospitals. Right. So what is happening at present is the state is buying, central government is buying the 50% from the domestic manufacturers, and some of them, some of it is trying to also import from the international market. Okay, so basically from the domestic market 50% is being bought by the central government, and there is differential pricing here by the companies. So yes, central government is procuring these vaccines, Covishield and Covaxin, at lower cost as compared to state and private hospitals. This we have covered earlier also. Along with that, when the center is procuring this 50%, it is then distributing to states on equitable basis. And equitable basis means according to the demand by different states and its population and the capacity to provide these vaccines to the people, to its people, right? So ultimately the vaccines are being given to the states, but this 50% is quota at present is being given to those who are having the age of 45 plus and those who are having the comorbidities free of cost. This is the present day national vaccination policy of the central government. Now flexibility is given to the states and the private hospital to determine the cost. Most of the states later on declared that they will provide these vaccines free of cost. They will provide these vaccines free of cost to the population, younger population group of 18 to 44 age. Right. So what happened here is basically at present there is a lack of supply, that is the production capacity is less and demand is more because the vaccination is open to this younger age group which is having more population, around 600 million population, and this population is only around 300 million population. Right. So and already around, we can say, the 10% of the population in the country is vaccinated at present. Right. So this is the situation that we are having. So whatever the vaccines which are being procured be it by central and state government, they are moving towards states, and now the private hospitals are free to buy these vaccines from the manufacturers, be it domestic or international. Okay. Along with that, the state and private hospital, or we can say that central government, all of them can procure these vaccines from the international market. However, at present there is again crunch of these vaccines or vaccine supply in international market also, and that's why states find it very difficult to procure these vaccines. Okay, and the central government is continuously in talks with the international manufacturers, those in the western countries like Pfizer and Moderna, to supply these vaccines. Okay, so at present we can say that there is lack of supply and more demand is there, and this is the situation that many states are not providing vaccines for the younger age group at present because there is lack of availability of vaccines. Whatever the 50% is being given, that is to be supplied to only or given to those adult age, we can say, or the older age group 45 plus only. This is the present situation in the vaccination policy. I hope your doubt is clear now. The second doubt or the question which is raised here, in Article 19(1), how friendly relations with foreign states can lead to impose reasonable restriction? Yes, again this is good question, because in general in M. Laxmikant or other such notes it is not provided the explanation. Yes, such kind of reasonable restrictions are provided to those fundamental rights to be enjoyed under Article 19. Freedoms, right? So, how friendly relations with the foreign state constitutes reasonable restriction? This particular reasonable restriction was added through First Constitutional Amendment Act 1951, and in the world there is no such provision in any constitution in any country of the world. Okay, so this is very unique to Indian constitution. Friendly relations to foreign state. Now, why such provision was added here? Yes, freedom of speech and expression is good thing, right? However, what happens is when the people or media or press is allowed to speak about the foreign states in a, we can say, free manner, and that to some extent affects the friendly relations of India with that country, and there is scope of further tenseful relations and aggression on India by that country. To some extent that affects India's security also. To some extent that affects India's security also. Right. So, we can say that overall benefit of the society, security of the country, and which has to some extent impact on the rights to be enjoyed by the other fellow citizens of the country. That such kind of, let's say, unrestricted freedom of speech jeopardizes the rights of the other people, other citizens of the country. So that's why such reasonable restriction is there. Okay, so we have to understand the other reasonable restrictions in this manner itself. Fine? Okay. So these were two questions. It is good that you are following this The Hindu analysis on daily basis. Along with that, yes, try to ask such kind of question in the comment box. In next day or next day we will try to solve your doubts, questions in the classroom itself. Fine? Yes. Along with that, many a times students are not continuing this, watching this The Hindu lectures on daily basis. This actually affects your preparation. At the same time, it lacks the continuity in The Hindu newspaper, taking some inputs from this newspaper. That's why I would advise you to follow these lectures on daily basis. I will assure you that in the end, you are going to surely benefit for both prelims as well as mains examination. Let us see some important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper for mains purpose and for prelims purpose. Let's take overview of all these articles. Incorporating limits. Recently, the central government had constituted one committee which is going to look into the provisions of hate speech. Okay, the context of this article is this one. We will try to analyze and take input from the polity part, GS2 paper. Then, withering storms. This is having the context of a cyclone Yas and earlier cyclone Tautay. So basically it is talking about disaster management, cyclone management in the country, especially the eastern states of the country. Right. So yes, on page number 6, editorial. Next, 9-pin bowling aimed at free speech and privacy. This article is having the context of IT rules 2021. These IT rules, how it is impacting the privacy of the individuals, what are the issues involved in these rules, implementation of these rules, and some positive aspects also, right. So this is important from polity and governance perspective. Then fourth article, US-China engagement era has come to an end, top US official. So as a follow-up to US-China relations, how earlier the engagement era of earlier 3 decades is now converting into the competition era between US and China. Then prelims related, on Friday review supplement on page number 4, Mundeshwari temple in Bihar. One article, it is talking about this Mundeshwari temple. So yes, UPSC is asking some questions in prelims examination regarding temples also, or the significant places from the culture aspect. Then rivers of Odisha map we are going to understand, because yes, there is mention of 1 or 2 rivers regarding flooding in Odisha because of intense rainfall due to cyclone Yas. And lastly, cyclone Yas related developments and daily prelims MCQs. Now, first article, incorporating limits. The context of the article, it is talking about the proposal to incorporate provisions against hate speech in IPC, right. So yes, this is the good proposal, and the writer, or we can say this article, it is talking about the freedom of speech in a philosophical manner, that is the freedom of speech provided in the modern democracy. Let us try to understand the proposal first. A committee appointed by the Union Home Ministry tasked with recommending the changes in criminal law is now seeking to formulate new provisions that will make hate speech a separate offence. The term hate speech may not be used, but the panel is examining recommendations made by Law Commission earlier and the expert committee headed by T.K. Vishwanathan on adding sections 153A(c) and 505A to the IPC. Okay, so this committee provided for new sections to be added related to hate speech. Now let us try to understand the freedom of speech in modern democracy. What is this freedom of speech? Yes, very good statement. Speech is free, but it is freedom that comes with responsibility. Yes, speech is free because it is basically the human right. It is basically the human natural right. As a human being, we are allowed to talk about something, right? We are free to talk, but that freedom that comes with some responsibility, right? So that's why we have to understand there are some restrictions with the freedom of speech. Then responsible speech is not just something that does not contain abuse, defamation or incitement to violence. It is increasingly seen as expression that tends not to discriminate against or incite hatred towards groups based on race, gender, caste, religious belief, sexual orientation, nationality or immigration status. This is how the modern democracies are defining. Basically, it is talking about the negative aspect of freedom of speech and not positive. That is, world have moved away from free speech doctrine based on formal equality among the different viewpoints to one that discourages the targeting of any vulnerable section. Okay, the focus here is the freedom of speech should not result into the discrimination, or we can say targeting of any vulnerable section here. Okay, the focus of the freedom of speech is now moving towards negative aspect. Positive aspect of freedom of speech was earlier towards formal equality among the different viewpoints, right? So yes, we can understand that, but now the focus here is on social justice, or we can say that ensuring rule of law equality. Yes. So in analysis, we can understand that the Committee for Reforms of Criminal Law, which was formed last year in 2020, attracted the criticism. when it was formed? Yes, as many feared hurried process without adequate and wide consultation. Some lawyers and activists said that it was not inclusive and questioned the ability to gather wide range of opinion in the midst of pandemic. So this is one of the aspects that we have to understand. The committee should be inclusive in taking feedback, viewpoints of the experts in this field. Along with that, it is difficult to take such viewpoints during pandemic times. Then the committee must direct its efforts to define narrowly the sections it proposes to formulate and avoid the pitfall using vague and overboard terms. At present, we have seen in article, or we can say section 66A of IT Act, which was struck down by Supreme Court earlier. This particular section was talking about or had very vague definitions or terms, and that's why the constitution, or we can say Supreme Court, called it as unconstitutional. If at all new sections are to be introduced, it should be clear that what is sought to be punished is incitement to the violence or advocacy of hatred, posing an imminent threat to public order or targeted group. The focus should be on these provisions only. Whenever the hate speech is going to be defined in those sections. Okay, so in analysis you have to analyze in this manner. Fine. Okay, moving on to next article, withering storms. Yes, the context of the article, it is talking about the disaster management towards these tropical cyclones, and their frequency is growing and their strength is growing in recent years because of climate change, and therefore there is need of resilience towards cyclone management, or overall we can say disaster management when towards these natural disasters. At the same time, the states are also facing the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, and because of that the preparedness and the rescue response operations are taking hit here. Even though lives have been protected, much work needs to be done when it comes to protecting assets and creating fiscal instruments to help people rebuild their lives. That means at present we are able to protect the lives of the people. For example, during the cyclone Yas or during the cyclone Tatai, in recent times we were able to evacuate the people living in the coastal areas and temporarily relocate them in the shelter homes built specifically for this purpose in these coastal states. However, what happens is when these people are going back to their native places, there is complete devastation of the property, and therefore to rebuild their lives, this is very important that they should be provided fiscal instruments, some kind of monetary compensation. Along with that, the assets which they are losing here, for that purpose also compensation is needed. Case study of cyclone Amphan last year, which hit West Bengal, right? So World Meteorological Organization in its State of Global Climate 2020 report described cyclone Amphan that hit West Bengal in May 2020 as the costliest cyclone on the record for North Indian Ocean, with economic losses to India of order of $14 billion. You can mention this name of the report. This fact is very important. The economic loss due to natural disaster. We are expecting such question here. The economic loss, not only loss of lives of the people, economic loss is also important. Then in human terms, extreme event displaced 2.4 million people. So because of this Amphan, cyclone Amphan, and when the cyclone hit, and there was the rebuilding process that was going on, there was corruption in distribution of relief also. So such kind of administrative failure is also very important concern here. So yes, what we have to understand as analysis and way forward, the governments are best placed to provide the relief here, compensate people, since they can spread the cost of the risk of disaster across the population. Because yes, surely this is distributed among the people as the government is using tax money, and tax is collected across the spectrum of the population. Challenge is to address the risk of cyclones and other extreme weather events using specific funds, making citizen members in the social insurance model. Use such terms in your answer, even in essay. Social insurance model or social safety nets, right? Moreover, considering negative climate change impact on tropical cyclone, rebuilding should use green build back better approach. Use these terms. Very important in disaster management. This should be written as way forward. Green rebuilding process, build back better. This approach is very important. Okay. So basically it involves not only relocation, it involves rehabilitation, right? Relocation is temporary, but rehabilitation is long term. Rehabilitation is long term, which includes the protection of livelihood, new livelihood avenues to the people when they are relocated, rehabilitated. The land is given for to them, or other such, let's say, avenues for further sustenance are given. Then the health and education facilities to the children, all these aspects are part of rehabilitation. Okay. So yes, what kind of question we can expect in GS3 paper, disaster management? Cyclones are inevitable, but communities need fiscal rehabilitation for recovery. Analyze with reference to cyclone management in India. Okay. So yes, these natural disasters are inevitable when we are looking at the climate change aspect. Their frequency and strength is further increasing and increasing. That's why we need to create certain kind of resilience and build back better approach when we talk about the rehabilitation. Okay. Yes. Next, 9-pin bowling aimed at free speech privacy. The context of this article, it is talking about the new rules, Information Technology Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code Rules 2021. Yes, presently the conflict going on between Government of India and many such intermediaries like WhatsApp, Twitter, right? So all these are going on regarding the implementation of these IT rules. 25th May was the last date of compliance. Now the Government of India has asked the compliance report within 15 days to these intermediaries. In earlier lectures, we discussed about the provisions of these rules. Still, we will try to understand what are the positives. Positive aspects of rules: removal of non-consensual intimate pictures within 24 hours. This is good thing. Then publication of compliance report to increase transparency. This is also positive thing. Setting up of dispute resolution mechanism for content removal on the complaint provided by the users. This is also good thing. Adding a label to information for users to know whether content is advertised, owned, sponsored or exclusively controlled. Basically already the initiatives by the large social media platforms have been undertaken regarding this labeling of information, like Facebook, Twitter and WhatsApp, right? So what are the issues with this IT rules? When we have seen this positive aspect, there are some negative aspects, issues. For example, Information Technology Act 2000 does not regulate digital media. This original act does not talk about digital media, and therefore bringing these rules through executive manner or delegated legislation is not appropriate. This is what the writer is saying, that therefore the new IT rules, which claim to be piece of subordinate legislation of IT Act, travel beyond rule making power conferred upon them by IT Act. This makes rules ultra vires to the Act. Okay, this is one issue. Then we have to understand the other issues, like an intermediary is now supposed to take down the content within 36 hours upon receiving orders from the government. Now this reduces the time limit and deprives the intermediary of fair recourse in the event that disagrees with the government's order due to strict timeline. Okay, so yes, when the government is asking to remove them, we know that government can be wrong. Government can be using these orders or powers arbitrary manner. So yes, the recourse timeline, or for the, let's say, time for recourse is very less, so it is not fair for the intermediaries also. Other infamous flaws, like how these rules undermine the right to privacy by imposing traceability requirement. It weakens security of privacy of conversation. We know that social media platforms like WhatsApp use end-to-end encryptions, and if these messages are being decrypted for the purpose of finding the originator of the content, then to some extent we are haphazarding the right to privacy of its users. At the same time, the regulations in the absence of data protection law will also render all the data vulnerable to attack from ill-intended third parties or antisocial elements. Cyber attacks can happen. Yes, and rules create futile additional operational cost for intermediaries by requiring them to have Indian resident nodal officers, compliance officers, grievance officers. Intermediaries are also required to have offices located in India, right? So all these aspects are involved here. Additional burden is created, and now social media platforms like Twitter, they are asking some extension of this time limit for the purpose of implementation of these rules. They are not saying that they will not implement the rule, except WhatsApp. WhatsApp has filed suit in Delhi High Court against Government of India, but other companies are still trying to follow and comply with these rules. Okay, so we'll have follow further on these issues. What kind of question? Yes, simply straightforward. Discuss the issues associated with these IT rules. There can be simple question for 10 marks in GS2 paper. Okay, you need to be aware about these issues. Then US-China engagement era has come to an end. Top US official. For the first time, explicitly, the top official of US administration has said that the era of friendly relation has come to end. Now there will be competition. The competition would be henceforth the dominant paradigm. Such open statement has been perceived by China as provocation, and said that the competition should be healthy competition and reinforce each other's interest. Okay. Now, Biden orders probe into virus origin. Now, for the first time, US President has openly said that or asked American intelligence agencies to redouble their efforts to analyze the origins of COVID-19 to determine whether it emerged from human-animal contact or via laboratory accident. Now, to this step also China has, let's say, strongly objected and given the statement that for a to some extent it is, or US President is turning a blind eye to the facts. Already the investigation by WHO is done. WHO team visited Wuhan laboratory, and that's why China is saying that there should not be such kind of investigation further. The origin of this virus is quite clear according to China, but now US President is asking for further clarity regarding this. Next, for prelims examination, history in every stone, on supplement page number 4 of supplement, Friday review. This article, it is written regarding this Mundeshwari temple in Bihar. Mundeshwari temple, it looks like this. The architecture first, yes, it is built of stone in an octagonal plan, which is very rare. Octagonal plan. It is the earliest specimen of Nagara style of temple architecture in Bihar. Okay. Now let us try to understand. It is ASI protected monument since 1915, and information plaque at the site indicates dating back of temple to 625, we can say, AD, and the Hindu inscription dated this 635 AD were found in the temple. Along with that, it is ancient temple dedicated to worship of Lord Shiva and Shakti, and that's why it is also a site of tantric cult in eastern India. It is being considered as the one of the oldest functional Hindu temple in India. Chinese visitor Huan Sang wrote about the shrine on hilltop, flashing light at about distance of 200 leagues south-west to Patna. Okay, the location is only of Mundeshwari. So yes, this Mundeshwari hills of Kaimur Plateau near Son river in Bihar, the location of this temple. So what is important for us? Dedicated to Lord Shiva and Shakti. Dating, then ASI site, and then Huan Sang visited or wrote about this, and the architecture, octagonal plan and Nagara style of temple architecture, right? Okay. Cyclone Yas related follow-up. Yes, now once the cyclone has made landfall now, the huge rainfall has led to flooding of river Baitarni. Along with that, the West Bengal Chief Minister will meet Prime Minister to discuss the impact of cyclone Yas and seek certain kind of, let's say, package for rehabilitation purpose and compensation to the population that has been impacted because of cyclone. Okay, so yes, let us try to understand the location of different rivers in Odisha when they are meeting Bay of Bengal. From north to south, let us try to understand. You can see here the location of Subarna Rekha river. It is entering from West Bengal into Odisha. It is entering from West Bengal into Odisha. Subarna Rekha originates from Chota Nagpur Plateau region and then enters lastly into Odisha and then flows into Bay of Bengal near this Talasara port. Okay, Talasara and Kartania port, these two locations. Fine, northernmost river, important river of Odisha. Then south of this river we have, yes, Salabandi river is flowing like this. It is tributary of Baitarni river. Okay, so yes, let us locate this Baitarni river. This Baitarni river originates on the border of Odisha and Jharkhand and flows like this and reaches near this Dhamra port, the mouth of the river. Okay, and then comes the south of it is Brahmani river like this. Brahmani river is flowing into and near south of this Baitarni river. Okay, then we have the Mahanadi river originating from Chhattisgarh entering into Odisha like this. Mahanadi river, then it has a certain distributaries like this. Okay, entering into Bay of Bengal. We have important major port in Odisha, Paradip port located here near mouth of Mahanadi river. Paradip port, remember this. Then on the south of this we have important Rishikulya river. Rishikulya river and the mouth of Rishikulya river, this particular area is very famous for, we can say, the olive ridley turtles. Hatching of these olive ridley turtles. So very famous Rishikulya river. Then south of this Rishikulya river we have Vamsadhara river. Okay, Vamsadhara river. These regions, they are actually Mahendragiri hills of Eastern Ghats. Mahendragiri hills. Recently Odisha government had proposed Mahendragiri Biosphere Reserve as second Biosphere Reserve of Odisha. First is Simlipal located in this region. Okay, right. So these are important rivers. Then we have Nagabali rivers south of it. Okay, and yes, these are important from north to south. You have understood the location of these important rivers of Odisha. Remember this. Okay. Now, yes, on this basis questions can be asked regarding the rivers of Odisha, and you can solve this practice prelims MCQs. We are giving such kind of MCQs for your practice purpose. We know that prelims has been postponed already to October month. You have ample amount of time to solve these MCQs, practice MCQs. You can answer these MCQs in the comment box. The detailed explanations of these MCQs is provided on Telegram channel of LUKMAAN IAS. So you can visit and join the Telegram channel. The link is provided in our description of this video. Along with that, if you have any questions regarding whatever the discussion we have made, or even I would say that you want to correct the information that we have provided, you can mention in the comment box. Surely we are very much positive and open for feedback. Fine. So yes, these were important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. Yes, LUKMAAN IAS has come up with the test series for ethics paper, polity paper, overall GS paper and public administration and essay paper. To know more about the test series, you can contact LUKMAAN IAS. Thank you.